Hello, hello, hello to all the movers, makers, and shakers who live out loud, stand strong, build empires, move mountains, push boundaries, make memories, and refuse to take no for an answer. You are paving the way for the next generation of woman leaders. If this sounds like you came to the right place. Welcome to WomanCEO Podcast, focused on wealth, confidence, empowerment, and ownership. I'm your host, Yasmine Belle, two-time CEO and founder, tax accountant, and certified wealth and money mindset coach, helping you live abundantly.
Welcoming in today's podcast is one of our very own Jay Shetty certified breath and life transition coaches. She helps with transition through life's changes, wanted or unwanted, while infusing the practice of simple and easy to use breath techniques, using gentle yet very powerful techniques without diminishing the importance of the events in your life. These techniques were developed while running a busy restaurant and coping with major life events. Joann Moore, welcome to the show.
What was your inspiration to even start as a coach?
I used to run a restaurant and for better than 16 years. And of course, COVID, we had to shut it down. But in the last 2 years, I had this beautiful young lady working for me. And when she first started working for me, she was so withdrawn and she was so trapped inside her thoughts. And the weight of the world was on her shoulders, and she was 21, and my heart was breaking, and she was thinking about going back on her antidepressant medication. And that really just, I've been against medication. I know there's a purpose for medication, but in some instances, it's not necessary. And so I asked her if we could just talk, and I would ask her a few questions here and there. And within a month, she decided not to go back on her medication. And within 2 months, she started wearing something other than black, which was, to me, was amazing. In 3 months, the customers were noticing a change. And in 6 months, she had learned was working through the process of forgiving her mother for life events. Wow. And it was just a whole snowball effect. At the end of the year, she was helping her brother get through high school, and she was helping her dad get through work issues. And, it was just a nice little snowball effect. And as it turns out, she is also helping her coworkers and her fellow students, because she's just finishing up her course. So it was kind of the candle on the icing on the cake. You know what I mean? It was, because I learned, when you mentioned Jay Shetty, I learned as I was going through the course that I've actually been coaching most of my life and dealing with customers and dealing with staff, especially in a small town, because you get to know the people. They come in on a regular basis, you have your little conversations, and they come up with these little scenarios that they're not sure what they're supposed to do with. And these questions would come to me without any thought. And all of a sudden the customers are like, oh, I gotta go try that. And I didn't know. And they get all excited, and I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it's about creating that ripple effect and watching it expand, and watching the changes in people, and just watching them grow and glow. My goodness, glow.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. And that it was through breath work.
It didn't start with breath work, but it ended up with breath work. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Powerful. And it's so powerful because, breath work is not something that they teach you in school. No. We have a completely different curriculum. So, we're not taught on how to manage emotion, how to breathe, breathe into things, breathe into emotion. And, I know you and I had a conversation off camera about how I tend to hold my breath when I'm dealt with a difficult situation or uncomfortable situation, or or I'm waiting for the answer, it's like on edge a little bit. I literally stop breathing. And because I'm also a coach, so I'm really big in self-awareness. And so I became aware of my breath, and I'm like, wow, why am I holding my breath? And I don't want to call it anxiety, but
No.
maybe it is anxiety. Maybe it's nervousness. But we can call it anything you want. All I know is it's probably not healthy to do that. So, and I've caught myself, and you sent me a beautiful video on, Yasmine, when you get to this point, just breathe into it. And it really, really, really helped me. So I can't thank
Awesome.
you enough for that video. And this is something that I also do in the morning, which is, have you ever heard of priming in the morning?
Mhm.
Like priming, Tony Robbins speaks of priming. You prime in the morning and then you breathe and you do these, breath works. It really helps me get my blood and circulation body going in
Yeah.
the morning. So I do it literally in bed before I even get out of bed. And I've been really into the Wim Hof, which I
Yes.
don't do it often as enough. And I probably should incorporate that into some of my daily routine, because it alkalines your body.
Mhm.
So do you want to take the floor and shed a little bit of knowledge in that area?
Well, I started mine. I haven't, I don't go as deep as Winhoff does, and I don't get quite as energetic, but you can invigorate yourself by breathing correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I started mine because of stress. I had a diagnosis that really threw me right off kilter. And of course, running a restaurant, it's a 24/7 job. And things just started to snowball, and I found myself super stressed. I was having anxiety attacks and heart palpitations. I couldn't sleep. So I did this exhaustive search to figure out what I could do for myself. And I came across Wim Hof, and I also came across a gentleman named David G.
Mm-hmm.
And David G does meditation, but one day he did one that incorporated breath work. And when he hit that one, I just melted. Like it hit every fiber the right way in my body. And I just okay, I got to play with this. And so what I ended up doing was taking the breath work that I learned there and incorporating it into something that I could do while I was working to alleviate the stress while I was working. I can stand and have a breathing session in front of a customer and they have no clue what's going on, because it's the way you breathe in and breathe out, and you're just constantly creating this flow in and out in one nice little circle, and you're concentrating on it, and all of a sudden your body, your core starts to just settle out, your blood pressure drops, your heart rate drops, and all of a sudden there's this eternal sense of peace that just envelops you.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Just you talking about it, I'm like, yep, just breathe. Breathe it.
That's it.
And
That's it.
it's so incredible that you do this as a practice, because we often are in meetings where are faced with situations where we can't get away in that moment to meditate.
Yeah.
But breathing, it's something we can do at any moment, any time, regardless of what activity we're into, or where we presently are. So I think that breath work is so, so important, especially nowadays when, you know, some folks probably out there like me hold their breath,
Yeah.
and who knows, and also the different type of breathing,
Yeah.
right? Like breathing from your belly as opposed to, really feeling and breathing well. So, wow, that's incredible. So share a little bit about, I guess, the message that you would like to bring forth and shed light to humanities in your breath work. And
I think getting in touch with your inner calm, is your inner peace,
yeah,
is, I think, the biggest message that everybody needs to attach to. And while I do not preach attachment to anything, I do preach attachment to the inner self, because that's where it all starts. And when you start listening to your heart as opposed to your head, all these little things, that these thought patterns that we've been brought up with. I mean, it's something. I mean, if we think about what we went to school, you had to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. You had to raise your hand to answer a question. You have to always ask permission. You have to follow the rules. You're incorporated. When if you're caught daydreaming, staring out the window, you get yelled at.
Wow.
And we're
That's so true.
right, and we're not taught how
Mhm.
to deal with those things. So we have constant thoughts running. And I mean, the average person has between 60 and 90,000 thoughts running through their head in the course of a day.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible when you think about it. So if you can take a few moments, and I recommend once an hour, but I realize not everybody can do that. But once you get into the practice, you can do it while you're talking to somebody else, while you're driving your car, when you're sitting at a stoplight, when you're walking from room to room.
Mhm.
And that few seconds of connection with your breath brings you back into your core,
Mhm.
and it settles everything down. And all the hoopla that's going on around you, all of a sudden there's just white noise in the background. And you smile, and people look at you like you're a lunatic because you're smiling and they're freaking out about something. And you're just like, yeah, I know. It's okay. We got this. It's good.
Yeah, no, but it's so powerful. It's
It
so
is.
powerful beyond words to
Mhm.
be completely open with you, because we need this. We need this now more than anything. We need to really learn and start really breathing into things. When we're having a difficult conversation, when we're faced with uncertainty, when breathing is so important. I mean, as you're talking, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been doing some breathing. I'm like, oh,
Yes,
but it's also a reminder, right? And this is why
it
it
is.
helps so much to have a coach. As coaches, we also have coaches,
Mhm.
and it's just that reminder of, breathing in, because it has so many health benefits.
Yeah.
We're releasing that stress, that cortisol in your body. That's why they say stress is the number one killer.
Yeah.
And because we don't know how to manage it.
You just mentioned health benefits. I had a little epiphany the other day. I was taking a walk. Now, I had been off my walks for almost a month because we were moving, and you know how much fun moving is. So I hadn't been taking my regular walks, and I thought this is going to be a little bit to get back up into par. But as we were moving, I was still practicing all my breath work. Well, I did my walk and I marched because I wanted to see how far I could get. And I was not winded. I
Mm,
was not short of breath. And I thought that was absolutely amazing. It's a nice little
love
hidden
that.
benefit, right? But then there's that. And then I have one of my other friends that I was speaking with. When she gets into her deeper breathing states,
Mhm.
she actually connects to her intuition better.
Mm.
So there's a couple of little hidden benefits that we don't always talk about, but for those
Wow.
that are more intuitive and more empathic, they might want
Mm.
to give it a shot and pay. It gives you that chance to center out and listen to it from the inside out.
I love that, because I'm actually an empath, and I had to learn, or I'm having to learn, to channel different things and apply different techniques to my day to day to allow me to operate at full
Yeah,
level, at full speed. So breath work, I didn't even hear about that for empaths, which is incredible, and really, linking up to your intuition. I think that's powerful and really important. Especially, not to say men don't have intuition, but women, we have innate intuition.
yeah,
We're really, really connected
yeah.
to our senses, and it's powerful when unlocked. That's for sure. Wow. So breath work. Okay, great. Good to know. I love that. I'm going to start doing that in the mornings while I'm on my patio having my coffee in the morning and just closing my eyes. Do you have a certain position that you would recommend me being, or closing my eyes, or?
It really depends on where you are. Like if you're outside, it's just as easy to focus on a tree or a flower, because you're reconnecting with nature, and you're also stopping the thought patterns because you have that focus right in front of you.
Mhm.
Um, but is for us for posture, it's be comfortable. You don't have to sit with your back straight and your neck crooked, or you know what I mean, and
Mhm.
just comfortable, but not like, don't cross your arms. Try to sit with your legs comfortably apart. And we tend to, as ladies, we've been again trained to cross our legs and, not sit like a guy does with their legs wide open. But actually, there is a hidden benefit to doing that. You're actually allowing the flow to come. And if you keep your hands open, not closed, you actually allow more energy flow to you as well.
Interesting.
That's a little thing out of Qigong, but it's
that.
So if you just sit comfortably on the edge of the chair, your back nice, your hands resting, you can have them palms up or palm down, and your fingers loosely relaxed on your fingers on your knees, and then start breathing normally.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you carry on, just breathe a little bit deeper, and then just see where your thoughts go from there, and see how your heart feels when you're doing it, because you're going to feel this little, well, for lack of a better word, a giggle.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's that's how it hits me. I mean, it's my word, but it literally feels like you're going to have this little giggle come up, and you want to grin, and all of a sudden you're smiling, and then everything is glowing, and everything is brighter, and the colors are more crisp, and it's it just kind of flows from there.
I love that. No, that's incredible. And I know when I'm in nature, or at least around trees and I'm outside, I have so much a connection to myself. It's so important to me to manage my sanity, with so much on our plates these days, for me to be in nature and reconnect, because that's honestly, that's my happy place.
Yeah.
We're pulled in so many directions through the day that making a point, giving yourself that time to connect, whether it's walking in the park, whether it's going hiking. Like, I love hiking, and I bring my dog with me pretty much every morning, or at least at least 5 to 6 times a week, because it's a way that he gets exercise and he sniffs around and does his thing, and I get out in nature, and I'm never really in a rush. I really allow, even sometimes if I may get up a little later, right? Because now the days are shorter.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's okay. It's no big deal if I'm, an hour or half an hour later than schedule. It is what it is, right? We have to adapt to our environment as well. And so really being kind and allowing yourself to really be and taking it all in. And it's fascinating, because when I am in nature, I do notice the little things, like the butterflies, the birds, things that we don't notice at the gym. We don't notice when do you know what I mean? Like, we don't notice when we're on a bicycle, or so it's a little bit of both worlds, getting a little bit of exercise, getting some fresh air, connecting with nature. I'm fascinated, because I've never really done breath work when walking. And so I just had this thought of how it would be next time I'm going on a hike to really emphasize and implement that breath work.
You can, pardon me, I just about lost my voice.
Yeah.
You can, depending on your pace, you can adjust your pace to, as you're stepping twice, inhale for both steps, and then exhale for 2 steps. You can, when I'm walking, I actually create sounds. One of my favorites when I'm walking is to breathe in and then just, as I'm walking along, and just make different sounds. And I'm actually thankful there's nobody on the road, because
But what's funny? Actually, I've heard this, that sounds, when you create humming, or you hum, or it's actually vibration, and it releases stress. Is that true?
Yes.
I just I just came across it not too long ago, maybe within the last few weeks, and I was like, wow, humming is actually supposed to be really good for you.
It is.
It was fascinating. Oh,
it
wow.
is. You can actually pick different tones and feel how they feel in your body when you're walking. Is the best time to do it, because your body is already occupied, so your mind and your breath can think together.
Mm.
And then when you're releasing those tones, you're going to feel it in your throat, in your chest, in your stomach, wherever it happens to hit you. And then you're going to, you're going to go, no, I don't like that. And you're going to go, oh, and you're like, oh, I like that. Oh, and you do it again. You know, oh, and you're going to find one, and you're just going to, and you can carry that through your walk. And people may look at you funny, but if it feels
That's
good,
okay.
eh.
That's okay, because the other day I saw this lady. She had literally her earphones in. You could tell, she was listening to music and dancing while walking. And it made me smile. It made me so happy to see her in her vibe, not caring about what people were thinking. And to be honest with you, I wanted to go and say, "Hey, what you listen to? Let me go dance with you too." It was at
Perfect.
8 o'clock in the morning. It was awesome, and it just it put such a beautiful smile on my face, because she allowed herself to be her, and in her world, in her vibe. And I think it's so important, because there's so much disconnect in our lives these days, especially with media, social, go work, just a lot of disconnect. So I think it's so important, just connect to something, connect to self, right? We were just having that conversation. It's so important to connect to ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and I know you've had a very stressful, difficult background ish, or at least this last few years.
The last few years have been interesting. Yeah.
With COVID and being a restaurant owner, and losing your restaurant, which is huge. I'd love for you to touch on that, because I think it's so important to understand the struggles, and also how and really how you flourished to today.
It was, we were caught a little off guard, because 3 or 4 years prior to that, I had actually turned off the media, because it got too much. It got pervasive, and it started hitting my inner peace. And dealing with the medication and my diagnosis, the two were conflicting as it was, and then to have the media on top of that. So I had actually turned it all off. So by the time COVID came around, I had no clue what was going on. So the funny story about that part was, and it was the Ides of March 15th. We had opened for business as usual. And I got a phone call from the health department telling me I was breaking the law. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? It's like, martial law has been implemented. You're breaking the law. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So she had to clue me in. I'm like, lady, I don't watch the news. I'm sorry. Like, I have no clue. So, for me, that was like, heck. All of a sudden, boom, we went from busy restaurant to closed. And in literally a day, because I wasn't paying attention to the media. So I had no notice that way. And then we found out some rules and regulations. We were allowed to stay open, but our sales dropped down to less than 25%.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then of course you have to lay off all your staff, because, the hydro bill doesn't change, but, and that hurt, because again, I had that young lady working for me and a couple of other people that were just exquisite, wonderful, wonderful people.
Yeah.
So during the closing, we ended up closing the restaurant, selling the property, and moving. So we lost our identity as restaurant owners. We lost our place of residence. We lost our income. We lost our business. And in that, there's a fair amount of grief and grieving that has to occur, that a lot of people aren't really aware of, even as they're going through it. And this, again, I thank the Jay Shetty course for my self-recognition, because as I was going through the course, which I took after we closed the restaurant, it allowed me the forethought to realize this is what I was going through. And it was, because the restaurant is 24/7. I mean, it's not like we were a chain. It was just me and my husband and our regular staff, and everything was fresh food. So we shopped around and got what we could from local suppliers, and then had the rest of it shipped in. But it was mostly fresh, so it was a lot of shopping around, and so it's a lot more work when you do it that way. But I mean, again, the customers, a lot of them we're still in touch with, and it was an extraordinary thing. But losing the identity and going through that process, I think had I not learned the breath work up to that point, I may have gone right off the deep end and become one of those screaming banshees you see running down the street with a machete in their hand or something like that. It's just those things. But it's a big transition, and it really does play on you. And I mean, I'm very thankful for the Jay Shetty course and the supervisors I had at the time, because especially Yamna, she was absolutely amazing to speak with, a beautiful lady. And it was very helpful to have that as, I don't want to say backup, that's not exactly the right word, but support
system.
Yeah.
And I mean, and you touch on so much that I'd love to unpeel, but before we get into that, especially grief, I would love to go into just a little bit about grief. But before we do that, you also lost your home during the mix, right? And that was another identity as well, wrapped, and you had to make sacrifices.
That's also part of the grieving process, because we were there for 7 years. And so we were rather comfortable.
Of course.
Things everywhere. I mean, it's not like, I know there are people that have had their homes for more than 20 years and they've lost them. And I completely understand how that feels, because it's not, I mean, it's not losing a parent. It's not losing a child. It's not, it's not even like losing a pet, but it's part of you,
right,
that you've been dealing with every single day.
Right. It's a loss. Exactly. It's a loss. It's your world. It's a commitment. And you had you had a reset button, so to speak, overnight. And I know that I sympathize with you, because I know a lot of folks that are restaurant owners had to close down. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, and I drive down to the streets where I used to shop and go eat, and it's sad. Most of the restaurants that I love to go to are closed. They went out of business, and mom and pop shops, and it breaks my heart. So it definitely affected so many people on so many different levels. And then to lose a home, or to have having to make that choice of moving and, selling and restarting over, there's a beauty in that, but there's also a lot of pain and grief and uncertainty, and that carries with you. It's a constant reminder that nothing is permanent, nothing is forever, and to really live our best lives, to be the best that we can be, to share the love with people and humanity and bring light. And that's one of the things that, is so dear to me, is we are so much better together than apart, in so many ways, even if we have different personalities. I mean, that's what makes people beautiful, is their indifferences, is their differences, is their walks of life. And I think that's what makes people.
I think one of the things that's come up recently is everything we see around us is an image. So while people are touting the use of their imagination, it's how do you use your imagination? Because everything is, I've been calling it an image nation, because things are constantly being thrown at us from the news, from the media, from even what you watch on TV, even in the movies. Everything's supposed to be perfect in this way. And then you have these people that are like, I could do this, I can do it all on my own, and I'm strong, and I'm all powerful. But you know what? the bottom line is we're not meant to do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're just not meant to do this alone. This thing called life is extraordinary in every aspect.
Yeah.
But it has mountains, it has valleys, it has gently rolling hills. Even the ocean has ebb and flow.
Yeah.
According to Abraham Hicks there. But
Yes,
it's
I love her.
right? but even Abraham Hicks, you're not meant to do this alone.
Yeah.
It's just, and with this image nation that we've have been brought up in, that's what they tell us we're supposed to handle it alone and stuff your emotions down in a bottle. Well, no.
Right. Oh, yeah.
No, I did that for better than 16 years. No, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. And you touch up on so much. Oh my gosh. And I will tell you, I'm learning now in my life that I don't want to do it alone anymore. For the longest time, I've always held the fort, ran successful businesses, right? My background, as you know, like I run a successful full-time accounting firm. I'm a certified coach. So, building that incredible brand and message out, building a business. I always felt I need to do it alone.
Yeah.
And it was such a lonely road. It was so lonely because, yeah, it's a very lonely. And so I threw in the towel literally within the last year and said, no more. I'm not meant to walk this path alone in this journey. But I love what I do and I'm great at it. Right. And this is when I started to allow myself to express what I need, to allow myself to express emotion, allow myself to reach out to the people I love and say, hey, I need you. Hey, can we work on this? Hey, how do you feel about this? This is where I'm at. Where are you at? And have that conversation. And you wouldn't believe how much burden, how much stress I was actually putting on myself.
Yeah.
Because I was raised by very strong parents, do it on your own. My dad was an entrepreneur. I was like, I want to be just like dad, but then again, looking back, I'm like, my dad had a team. Like he didn't do it by himself. But I think I just saw the results, and I saw him. So I'm like, I can do it too. And so asking for help is really difficult. Like it's really difficult. Like putting yourself vulnerable and saying, I need you, is difficult, especially for women and men that are, I don't want to use the word entrepreneur, but are self-sufficient, right? That can handle it.
And in a lot of ways, it's harder for men because they've been bred into this image of be the strong, sturdy person and just plow through it and keep on going. But plowing through it and keeping on going doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And I mean, I completely understand because I felt that there were times when I was running the restaurant, I felt I was the only one that could do it correctly. And I had a major control issue going on. And that was when you say allowing ourselves to let go of things, that's absolutely perfect because we have to give ourselves permission to let go of some of that stuff. And we have to give ourselves permission to ask for help. And that is, it is key. You're absolutely right. And it is, and not giving ourselves double talk for doing that, saying we're weak. Yeah. It's actually stronger of somebody to reach out and ask for help than it is to stuff all our emotions in a bottle and just carry on and push through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that you said that.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, this is such a great topic because I'm sure there's a lot of women and men that struggle with this, just allowing and having faith that it will work out. And reaching out to people that love you, that you love them, you're going to get supported. And so I think for the longest time, I always had this armor on And it was me when I started to release control and really letting go and detaching from things and asking questions. And, it was this domino effect. I was like, oh my God, what is happening? Wow, like where is this stuff coming from? And so, but I was fascinated by it. I always had a curious mind. So I was always in the maze trying to find, um, myself and really what resonated with me, and my true authentic space, not because mom and dad did it, or not because this is my competitors, or not because this is what I'm supposed to, but truly what I wanted to do. Who
Yeah.
was I? And I think that's the beauty in humanity, is when you could really stand strong and say, I am me.
Yeah.
Take me as I am.
Yeah.
I'm not copying anybody else. I'm not trying to be anyone that you want me to be, but I'm just am, with the flaws and the beauty, right? And that's
Mhm.
humanity. So I think, yeah, allowing is so important, and allowing to breathe, allowing to deal with grief. So many people turn to addictions as well, when things hit home at a very deep level,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of, yeah, different addictions that come up, that it's easier to go for that
Mhm.
thing, whatever that addiction is, than having to sit with that pain,
Yeah.
because we don't want to sit with that pain.
Yeah. The addictions give us a certain form of comfort that we were lacking,
Yeah.
that we think we were lacking.
Yeah.
When we actually let go of those addictions, we find a greater comfort in all that is. And
Mhm.
it's sometimes it's a little hard to get your head around, especially when you've been traveling a certain road for a little while, and
Yeah.
listening to what everybody else says. Well, he said, she said, he said, and he's doing this and he's doing that. You know what? That's them. That's their life. That's how they're running their life, and that's not you.
Mhm.
And that's where the breath work has helped me immensely. Sorry, was getting back into that. I had I remember doing a survey, probably 4 years ago now. And it took certain characteristics and the way you handled certain events.
Mhm.
And basically the bottom line is, when I read it back 2 days later, I was the restaurant. I wasn't Joann. I wasn't Gord's wife. I was the restaurant. I was neatly packaged into this square
Mm.
box. And wow, that was like, what an eye-opening thought that was, experience. And I'm just, okay, something's got to change. It's just right then and there. And, with everything else that was going on, I'm like, no, 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 no. Okay, something's got to change. So it's, and that's where I started to transition, because I was in that phase where, yes, I needed things to change, but at the same time, I don't know, at the time, I think I had 10 staff members. You couldn't just arbitrarily let everybody go, close the doors, and walk away. It would have been a really neat concept, but the responsible part of me wouldn't let me do that. So I had to figure out a way to transition instead of transform my life. And so over the course of several years, I managed to change a few things little by little. And I think that the smaller changes stuck better than the bigger changes.
Mm.
And that's,
And
the breath. Yeah, the breath
yeah,
work was the base work.
that's a big one. And I love that, because you do touch on transition versus transformation. Can you give me an example of what the difference is? Because yeah.
Often, a transformation, I can use in my personal life as an example. The transformation was moving from the restaurant, because the restaurant was here, the apartment was over top. So it was technically all one unit.
Mm-hmm.
So the transformation was moving from that into a small house. That was transformation. The transition was what I did to myself the 4 years leading up to that. And that allowed me to get through the transformation. without losing my mind, without having a heart attack, without having panic attacks, without, blaming everybody. And that's something else we all need to let go of, is blame. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yes,
Right.
100%.
Yeah. But so that what I had done, all the little steps I had taken in those 4 years leading up to the big transformation were small transitions. They were just, it's like climbing a ladder. You don't get from the bottom to the top in one step. You got to take one step, one step, one step, one step, one step. And that's a best way of explaining transition. It's a one-step routine. You do it, you conquer it. Yeah, you do it, you conquer it, and you carry on.
Yeah, because so often we're so focused on the end goal that we forget that it does take baby steps, right? It does take baby steps. You're not going to figure it out all today, and that's okay. And again, allowing yourself to be in that space. And this is where I think a lot of addictions fall into place, because we're just looking at the end goal and we want to suffocate, lack of a better word, bring down that pain and the uncertainty, because we want that quick fix. And yeah, it's really allowing and allowing the journey to unfold. I think, wow, that's powerful. Transitioning. I think transitioning is so important because we don't often allow ourselves to really step into that new space. Yeah. Wow. That is powerful. All through breath work. It's incredible. Are there any other daily routines or techniques that you do that kind of keep you grounded or, centered?
I do take time for myself every day. Doesn't matter what I'm working on, because I do have a project on the go right now, and it is rather time consuming, and it is a huge learning experience for me. And but while I can feel the stress building, with me, it's my shoulders and my neck. And everybody feels it differently. Some people get a knot in their stomach. Some people get a knot in their throat. One friend of mine gets a headache, just starts building at the back of her head and just, and so, but I got her into the habit of catching it when it's at the base of her skull, and she stops what she's doing. She walks away, and she does what works for her. In my case, when I feel the tension building in my shoulders, I stop what I'm doing. I put everything down. I take 2 deep breaths, and then I go outside and barefoot in the grass. And I just stand there. I listen to the birds. I listen to, in this case, traffic, because we happen to be closer to a major road. But and if you close your eyes, you can tell if it's a car or if it's a truck or if it's a transport, if it's a van, just by the sound of the tires. And then you can focus on the sound of the engine, if you will, or if there's not a lot of traffic, you listen to the trees. You can hear the wind rustling in the trees. You can hear the birds humming, singing, and having a grand old time. The other day, they were having a major discussion. It was hilarious. But even when there's no wind, you can find something to focus on. And it just, a few minutes standing there. And I do recommend, even if you don't do it barefoot, try not to use rubber soles. Rubber soles actually create an insulation between you and the earth. So your connection is lost. It's think about an electrical current. It hits rubber, it stops, right? So it's the same idea. You want the current from the earth to come up through you. So try to do it in either leather soles or barefoot if you can. I understand in the winter it's a little more difficult, but but yeah, if you can, just a couple times a day, even before the tension starts, just stand outside and just listen to the peace and quiet. And sometimes people can't get outside. So what I recommend is to turn the tap on in either the kitchen or the bathroom and create a little fountain so it flows over and you can hear the water trickling. Close your eyes and just stand there and listen to the water. Pretend you're standing by a stream.
I love that. Thank you for that tip. That's incredible. Because yes, a lot of people can't, leave, or maybe don't have grass around, and especially with everything that's going on in the world. Wow, that is very powerful. And I do stand with you definitely on the breath work and also on the grounding, because that's something that I practice a lot too. Not so much this week, actually, which thank you for reminding me. My schedule has been insane, but they say when, if you don't have time to either meditate or ground, then you need it most, right?
Yeah.
So it's that saying. And I know I feel so much more balanced when I'm
Mhm.
barefoot, in the grass. I love it. It's yeah, just it really balances me out.
Mhm.
There's a calmness that creeps in.
Yeah.
And there's a great documentary, actually. I think it was on YouTube. I think it's called Groundwork, Grounding.
I haven't seen it, but I'll
No,
go look for
actually,
it.
it's called Earthing.
Oh, cool.
Earthing, really, really, really great documentary. I was so in love with it, and so I used to, after my hike, I would used to take my shoes off. Don't do it anymore. I probably should.
Yeah.
And and just walk around barefoot, and people
Mhm.
would look at me like, "Why is she walking barefoot in the grass?" And I didn't really care.
No,
I was like, it makes me happy, so
that's it.
it's like that lady dancing, that I saw dancing with her iPod, her earpods. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, and
Mm,
I highly recommend everybody take. And I know I said once an hour, but even do 2 or 3 times a day will
yeah.
do wonders for you. And first thing in the morning and before you go to bed are two of the best times to do it. In
Mm,
the morning, you wash off what you're carrying with you from your sleep, and in the night before you go to bed, you wash off what you're carrying throughout the day
yeah,
and let it go.
yeah. Very
Yeah.
important.
Yes.
Yeah, and even if we have to sit in the grass, read a book, take our
Hmm.
coffee, we don't necessarily just have to stand there like a statue, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's sometimes like, I saw this gentleman actually just reminded me, he was sitting in his chair barefoot reading his book. And I looked at him, I was like, wow, you look so peaceful under a tree. I was like, giving me ideas to do,
Yeah.
on the
It's
weekend.
perfect.
Yeah, it really is. And, we think, oh, well, we need to be inside to read a book. So if we can get outside,
Mhm.
definitely use that time to recenter ourselves. Um, so you do have a special summit coming up.
Yeah, starting Monday the 20th. Starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're recorded videos I took because again the transition I took over the last 4 years. I didn't do it on my own. I followed a whole bunch of people, and they were some of the most amazing, heartfelt people I've ever met in my life,
Hmm.
and every one of them uniquely helpful in every little way, and each one has a wealth of knowledge to share. So I took 28, well, including myself, there's 28 different speakers, 2 per day for 2 weeks.
Mm,
And there's just, you can't help but smile by the time you're done listening to these people. And it's funny because I conducted the interviews, but at the same time, when I go back and review them, I'm like, how did I miss that the first time? It's like, so I'm listening to it and I'm still learning things as I'm going through it. So it's very cool. But yeah, it starts Monday and it runs for 2 weeks, and I can't wait for it to start because I want to listen to it all over again.
no, that's amazing. Wow. So 2 hour, two speakers a day.
Hmm.
And where can the audience find the summit? How is it launched?
They can actually, a really quick sign up. The emails come right to your email box, and you'll get a link for each speaker for when it actually starts, and a couple of introductory videos or emails, sorry. But if you go to joannmorecoaching.com, there will be a link to sign up, and then the emails take over because there's a little bit of a funnel going on there with the emails, which is learning experience. But
Uh huh.
um, it, you can't stay in the same spot forever, right? Yes.
Right. Oh yeah. It's evolution. We're
Yeah.
all learning new things every day. So it's all part of the process.
Mhm.
It's the transitioning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah, is there a cost to join your summit?
No, it's completely free. And the speakers all gave their time, and they've all offered a different gift for the
Oh,
viewers.
wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and some of them are meditation. Some of them are little books with practices to work on. A couple of my favorites. You were mentioning the rhythms of life earlier. There's two speakers in particular that deal with our circadian rhythm, and listening to them, it was just, I mean, I've been following Donna for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, and she deals with art and circadian rhythm. And when you hear her speak, you could just hear her passion. It was hard to cut the conversation short. I gotta tell you, a couple of them, a couple of them did get away from me, but and then there's a lovely lady named Perdito Dove, and she has always taught meditation, and she's given me a few new ideas on meditation. So it's
Wow, what an incredible platform workshop that you put together, because I mean, for 2 weeks, and free for 2 hours, this is incredible. This is such a beautiful gift that you're giving to the community, to be able to utilize and have these services at our fingertips that we wouldn't normally, and from different coaches, from different voices and walks of life. So wow, it's incredible. And I also signed up, so just to let you know.
Yay.
So I will be joining in on Monday.
Cool. I am offering a word of caution, because this is something I did to myself in the beginning too. As you go through the 2 weeks, you're going to hear all this fabulous information, and I want to amend the way I said that earlier. The videos air at 10 a.m. and they run for 24 hours.
Okay.
So you can watch each for the 24 hours, but try to attach to only one or two that really make you feel good. Because if you do what I did in the beginning and try to do it all, you're just going to create that stress and overwhelm all over again. And you don't want to do that. So, listen to the whole thing. But when you find that one that really feels right here, just go with that one and then see what else comes up. But try to stick to one or two and don't overwhelm, because it's there's a lot of information in there. And the temptation is to, I want it all, because, fear of missing out, right? So it's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun too.
Oh, well, I'm so excited to join and listen in and support. And, it's so important to support each other.
Yeah.
I'm a huge advocate of supporting my friends, my family, my entourage, my tribe, my community. Really, it's supporting is love, right? We have to give love in the world, and I think the world would be a better place. So what would you give to the audience as a daily reminder to allow them to use maybe a tool, a quick technique, if they get overwhelmed?
The deep breath. There's 2 ways of doing it. Because most people recognize when they're feeling the overwhelm. Most people have triggers. When you first become aware of your trigger is the most important part, because until you become aware of what the trigger is, where it's sitting in your body, that's your first step. Once you figure that out, take the deep breath and then just let it go in one big old sigh, and let it just right out of your body. And then breathe in again and breathe out until you find your rhythm. And then try to breathe in a circle. So when you're breathing in and breathing out without a pause, and because it takes a little bit of concentration, then you just the overwhelm kind of just slides away. And then you can go back to breathing normally. And you'll actually find at the end of, and it only takes about a minute to do this. And people are like, oh, I don't have 20 minutes to stand there and breathe. No, 1 minute. It's well, I did the same thing. I mean, it was like, I don't have 20 minutes to figure this out. It was like, oh, wait, it only took a minute. Damn, that's awesome. And then you get all excited. You're like, okay, calm down, breathe.
It's true.
But it is. And but it really does only take 1 minute to do that. And I mean, I have different ways of breathing. And again, if we were to have an individual session, I would take you through whatever works for you, because there's box breathing, there's triangle breathing, there's, the circle breath. There's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. But you have to find what works for you, and and making noise on the way out. If it feels good and you need to vent, just let it come out in your breath. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, instead of just, oh, and let your shoulders drop for a second. Let your body relax for a second. Let the tension go and just flow with it. But once you find that trigger spot in you, then pay attention to that. And with practice, you can actually breathe into that spot and feel it expand and dissipate.
I love that. Yeah, releasing that energy, that heavy energy is super, super important. 100%. And I love that you mentioned to breathe, when you're breathing out loud, to exhale with your mouth. Right? Not just always through your nose, but through your mouth.
No, it's important to breathe in through your nose because of the filters in your nose and your sinus cavities. Okay, because inside, and a little scientific here, your nose and your sinus cavities have their own internal protection, so that all that stuff doesn't go into your lungs. The simple way of putting it: what goes in through your nose goes into your lungs. What goes in your mouth goes in your stomach.
Interesting. Okay.
So, I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's the condensed version. So if you're only breathing through your mouth, you're not getting the oxygen into your lungs. Once you get the oxygen into your lungs, it spreads into your blood. Your blood gets more oxygen in it. You feel more energized. You feel, and at the same time, more calm. It's kind of a yin yang thing, but it's important to breathe in through your nose. You can release it through your mouth or your nose, but breathe in through your nose first.
Very important. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And what is one thing that, if you could change the world, what would it be?
Oh, everybody needs to be kind to themselves. And I know it sounds rather silly, but it's being kind to yourself is as simple as taking the time to sit with your coffee and enjoy your coffee. It's as simple as sitting on the porch at the end of the night with your feet up, with a book or just a song, or even just in silence, just you and yourself, and not think about all the stressors of the day. And if something goes wrong throughout the day, don't yell at yourself. Don't going, you dumbass, you weren't supposed to do that. You could have done, better. You didn't know what you didn't know until you knew it.
Right. It's our language. Yeah.
It is.
For ourselves.
Just be kind to yourself
Right.
and breathe.
Yeah.
And breathe.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. So where can our audience find you?
The easiest way is on Facebook, because that's where I spend most of my time right now. I'm just getting into Instagram. I do have, I think it's just Joann Breath Coach on Instagram, but Facebook, my name is just Joann Moore, or you can email me at breath2lifecoaching@gmail.com.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time, and the incredible summit coming up, you guys. I will include all the links below where you can find Joann. And again, thank you so much for being such a light. Thank you. One breath at a time.
That's it. Exactly.
Oh, thank you so much, Joann. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for letting me share my voice with you. WomanCEO Podcast is brought to you each Monday, and please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. If you love this episode and want more content, share your voice with us by joining our clubhouse at Yasmine Belle, and connect with us on our private members Facebook group at WomanCEO Leaders Who Lead. Remember to live with intention and purpose while stepping into the CEO in you. Until next time, bisous bisous.